So I just got back from the lumberyard a little while ago, and I got enough maple to make 2 of these lamps. So the first thing I need to do is take this 4/4 piece of maple and chop it up into smaller segments to rough length for the posts. I'm going to rip out all these posts to rough width, and then I'll take them over to the joiner and square up one corner. Now that I have all the posts cut out, it's time to square up one corner, and I'll do that at the joiner. Then we'll plane the other 2 faces to thickness. Here's a tip: the corner that I square up, the 2 faces that make up that corner, those are the 2 faces that I like to have my joinery on. That way if there's any snipe from the planer on the other 2 faces, it won't interfere with the joinery. So before I can rip the 16 rails that are required for these 2 lamps, I need to form a nice straight edge on this piece of maple, and I'm going to do that at the joiner. Even though this one piece of stock is going to make several rails, I'm going to face joint the whole thing as one unit, and we'll plane it to thickness. Now I can cut the rails to length at the table saw. For the joiner for this piece, I'm going to be using floating tenons, and to make the end grain mortises, I'm going to use my horizontal mortiser. Before I can make the mortises in the posts, I need to cut them to length. Now I'm going to make the grooves in each post to receive the panels, and I'm going to do that at the router table, and I'm going to do it in 2 passes. And on the second pass, I'm going to raise the bit height to about 1/4 inch. Now I got to make the loose tenon stock. And even though this piece is made out of maple, I have some scrap cherry that will be perfect for this. The loose tenon stock needs to be rounded over, and we'll do that with an 1/8 inch radius roundover bit. I need to cut a groove next in the bottom of each rail to receive the panel. Now ideally I would have liked to have done that before I batch cut out all these rails. It would have made it a little bit easier, but I didn't think of it until after, so live and learn. I've got some 4/4 curly maple that I'm going to use for the panels for these lamps. So what I'm going to do is try to resaw this right down the middle and get 2 panels out of this one chunk of wood. So after flattening one face of each panel at the joiner, I'll be able to plane these to thickness. So now it's time to cut these panels to both length and width. But before I did that, I went ahead and made a panel out of plywood. That way if I made a mistake, I made it in plywood and not my resawn maple. When making flat panels to fit into a groove, there are 2 options you have. You can mill the panel to the thickness of the groove so that the panel fits in there perfectly, or you can raise the back of the panel. In order to raise the back of the panel, I'm going to use my mortising bit in the router table. I always like to apply finish to my panels before glue up for 2 reasons. The first reason, well, it's just easier to apply when it's not in the frame. And the second reason is if I accidentally get any glue on the panel, it's a lot easier to remove with finish on it than with none at all. I know I've said this before, but the best way to sand these little pieces is with a sanding block and a vise. So that's it for part 1. I hope you guys will come back next week for part 2 and find out how to get this really cool Garage Woodworks t-shirt by going to the link in the description. Thanks a lot, guys.